What's going on, YouTube? Aaron Trevini here, back here in the beautiful state of Texas, and we are coming to you from Houston, and we have another wonderful guest for the second time from Dallas, Texas. We have Solomon Floyd. How you doing today, Solomon?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me back on the show, Aaron.
Absolutely. No, it was neat. I know that we had talked about it a bit the first time, and really just, seeing you're obviously doing a lot of big things, and thought it would be neat to bring you back on the show to, further talk about what you have going on.
Yeah, my man. As last time we spoke about our niche and what it is that we do, we primarily focus, my company, Reunion Investments, focuses on niche markets that provide a lot of shelter from economic boundaries, like where we're currently at, and economic issues, as well as provides really solid passive income that doesn't rely on investors having to be super active or very much in the landlord phase, right? Where you have to check on tenants, you have to check on your property to pay the insurance. And what have we done, which has been really fun and really cool that I really like, is we've allowed investors to place their money with a real estate group without having to, one, come up with a huge minimum investment, and two, but by being able to make sure they can have access to their liquidity every 6 months.
Absolutely. And that, it's neat as well, because I know we talked a bit about it, but it almost sounds too good to be true, right? Making passive income without ownership, right? So when someone thinks real estate, you think I would need to physically own this property myself to make any sort of income from it. But what you're suggesting is you cannot even be the owner and still make passive income. How would that work?
That's exactly it. So I think a lot of people do have that in their head, right? And you heard me last time, right? I don't like Instagram or TikTok people who are like, I got rich off of real estate. I think there are people out there who can really truly make money and do truly make active, really good money, quick returns. And I mean quick as in within the first 4 to 6 months of placing your income there. And I think a lot of people don't at all understand the power of REITs and funds. And what a REIT is a real estate investment trust. That's you buying into a corporation and owning those shares of that corporation. And basically, you are buying into all the hard work they've done years and years and years and years and years in advance. But they have this cash flowing property, this entire cash flowing portfolio that you can literally purchase into and buy into to ensure that you are, one, getting a consistent return every single quarter or month or week or year, whatever it is. And then two, protection. It's not like if one of those properties burns down, you're out your money. They have hundreds, if not thousands of properties, thousands of units that are spread across multiple different asset types that allow you to diversify. And where a lot of real estate investors feel as though they automatically do that, right? I diversified because I bought a house, right? That's not diversification as much as it is just buying one property. Diversification in real estate is incredibly important. And a lot of people are underestimating that. And we're going to see the effects of that happen as interest rates rise, as people stop buying homes, as people get laid off. Right? The work from home people who thought they were saving tons of money really just spent a lot of their money and didn't save up for what happens when they get fired. And, newsflash, but the work from home people are going to be the people who get fired first because they're not here. It's an extra cost that we're not utilizing as companies. And so I think that's one of the bigger things that a lot of people aren't paying attention to. For a fund, it's also very similar to a REIT. The only big difference is you're buying into an LLC as a member, not a shareholder. And again, you could get a preferred rate of return. You could get a boost on your money. And again, liquidity is going to be very easy. So these are things you're really going to truly want to look out for as you start investing your money because you may not have enough money to buy a whole house. You may not even have enough money to buy an apartment syndication or even invest in an apartment syndication, right? So you want to put your money in a place where it can grow consistently. And again, no one's saying put all your money into REITs or trust. All I'm saying is supplement your income to ensure that when you want to buy the thing you want to buy down the road, that there's cash flow in the bank or always coming. So that way, in case something does happen, right? You have to evict your tenant or your property does burn down or anything, any of the myriad of possible things that could happen to you. You want to make sure you have that diversification. And real estate is such a broad subset of a market that has so many different ins and outs where you can actually make money. I think REITs and trust are a good way to solidify portfolios and protect yourself from potential downside.
Absolutely. And there's some great insight there as well. Yeah, again, it almost sounds too good to be true, right? Just kind of investing in some sort of fun. And I think maybe to an extent that would kind of make people feel uncomfortable, right? If I'm doing a flip, I know I can look at this property, I know that it needs this amount of work, and I know that my guys are going to fix it. Whereas if you're investing in some sort of fund, there the money goes, right? So it's almost, I could see how maybe people would kind of be a bit potentially uncomfortable with that.
I can imagine that there would be some people who are uncomfortable with it, and funds and REITs are generally not for most everybody. I think it's for the people who are saying to themselves, "My goal is to buy a house. I can work Uber Eats, I can work at Walmart, I can do six different jobs at once to buy this house, or I can work three jobs and let my money multiply by X amount of time, right? By whatever percentage." That's where the real growth is. So again, it's not the end all be all, right? It's not a matter of so what you can't see the properties. Theoretically speaking, of course you can see the properties that all these REITs own, right? All you got to do is type their name in and you can see exactly where all their properties are going to be. Type them in on the CAD. You can even type them in on Google or Yahoo, and it'll tell you exactly where all their properties are. So it's not like you aren't an owner in this property. It's not like you're doing the rehab. It's not like you're doing the building. That's fine. What you're doing is capturing the hard work while they invest in more properties. And if you know where the REITs and funds are going to be investing, maybe you take your 4 years of return and you invest ahead of them or before them or after them. So everything can be done in complement with each other. It doesn't have to be a one or the other sort of thing. And that's where a lot of people go very wrong within the real estate game is nobody diversifies. Everybody puts all their money on one market, one asset, one thing, and no one ever hedges. And that's why people lose their asses in real estate because no one hedges their bets. And I'm all about the hedge. And that's why we've done so well and have been able to release our own fund purely because now we have all this cash flowing property spread across the country in multiple different asset classes. Now that risk is minimized. Not to say it's not risky, anything could possibly happen, but with 78 properties versus one property, what do you think is going to be the thing that still gives you cash flow at the end of the day, right? And that's where a lot of investors don't think about where do I place my cash?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one interesting thing as well was, across not only being across the country, but also different asset classes, right? So maybe, I guess maybe you could get into the weeds about how a recession really affects people, down to a T, but a recession would maybe affect different asset classes differently, right? So maybe one would be more effective than the other. So it's interesting to hear how you're spread amongst different asset classes.
Yeah, sure thing. So, the thing about owning a hotel is you're owning that hotel. So either your hotel's extended stay, luxury, middle class, sorry, middle market, economy, whatever it is, right? You own the one hotel. Well, let's say, you own a luxury hotel. Are a lot of luxury hotels going to be doing well during recessions? They're going to have to rely on memberships. They're going to really have to push to make sure that they can survive and get past the recession time frame, right? Get past the cycle. Versus a REIT may have six different hotels on six different hotels. Sorry, that's my dog. But six different hotels. You are going to be spread across multiple different asset classes. And with that, that's going to look incredibly different because you may have an extended stay hotel. Extended stay hotels do incredibly well in our sessions. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry about that.
Hey, no
Extended
problem.
stay hotels do well during recession because it's basically an apartment complex that can go on a day-to-day basis, right? For a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. They may have a hotel that has what we call a request for proposal, an RFP from a military base, a prison, a federal anything, right? They may even have campgrounds, campsites, RVs. These are all different areas where that leisure travel truly, really has a absolute capability to make that return because one or two of those sectors can possibly go down, right? But if they all go down, well, I mean, we're looking at like the end of hotels altogether. But I'm saying if one of those sectors goes down, hospitality, multifamily, retail, any sort of it goes down, you're still protected by the other sets of asset classes. And I think that diversification, again, like I keep saying, right, it's where a lot of people miss out on because you're only in the one thing. Like I know investors who are like, I only do RVs. I'm like, dude, you're an idiot. Not that you're an idiot, but like do you not at least take 30% of that income every single year and like put it in a REIT or a fund or something else that's going to at least protect your cash? The answer is always no, because a lot of people, one, don't know about it, and two, a lot of people don't seek out this information. And as soon as I learned about it, it's one of the top tier things that I always tell our clients and our investors, right? Like, yes, you can give me $500,000, but I'm gonna put 25,000 of that into a REIT. I'm going to put another 25,000 of that into a fund. Why? Because I don't want you barking up my tree here whenever this deal gets delayed or if something happens or if you miss a deadline. I want you to consistently make cash even while the deal is under construction. And that's also a very good reason and proponent for investing in funds and REITs, because even while your deals are getting ready to stack up, stack up, stack up, you can still have consistent cash flow. And you know what a bank's going to see? A bank's going to see, oh my goodness, a well-diversified client who doesn't have his entire portfolio in one area, one subset, or one region. This is the kind of person we want to give money to. I couldn't sell it any more than that.
Yeah, no, completely. And you know, that diversification, that's key. And it's interesting as well. I know we talked a bit about kind of, I guess, making it quote unquote recession proof, right? So it's interesting how regardless of what happens with home prices, they could go up, they could go down, rents could go up, rents could go down. But it really seems that this diversification is a really interesting component of kind of having your portfolio set straight.
I think it's one of the most important parts of it, right? I mean, stockbrokers always tell people we're going to diversify, highly diversified, because again, one thing tanks, all of it tanks. And I don't think a lot of people are prepared for what could happen. And I know a lot of what could happen is really hypothetical, but wouldn't it be nice to also make money and be safe? I think the two things can go hand in hand together without having to wait every 10, 5, 15, however many years you're waiting to buy your next property to get into the multifamily commercial side. You see a lot of investors take a very slow journey. You see some of the guys who go and move really quickly and move really fast, and they never diversify out of that. And then what do you see later on down the line, right? Like the single family housing market tanks. And so did that guy, right? Because he didn't diversify. And it goes back to what I said earlier. The people who are like, I only do the one thing and the one thing only. As fantastic as that is, trust other experts who've been doing it for, I don't know, 5, 10, 15, 20 years and let ride off of their coattails, right? They're giving you a percentage that you can count on every single quarter, year, month, whatever it is. They are giving you that percentage for all their hard work. They already have the portfolio that's light years ahead of yours. So why on earth would you try to ever not be involved in something like that, right? If I could be involved in as many deals as possible, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not just going to stick to the one or the two things that I do very well. As great as it is, I do two things very well, right? But my money is also playing for me on the other side because something could happen. Something could happen. More importantly, I could run into an issue, right? I could have a contractor that screws me. I could have a tenant that just stops paying and has a really good lawyer somehow because he's not paying rent, I guess, and I can't evict him. Anything could possibly happen to where my cash flow is eliminated. And I don't ever want that to happen. So I'm all about the upside. And with that, that is the biggest reason I created the Reunion Variable Income Fund, is to ensure that my investors are protected from the downside while ensuring that every deal in the future that Reunion touches ends up back in the fund. And the reason for that is because I think a very circular economy is exactly what funds and REITs are really focused on, right? They invest as LPs in other deals, so you're also getting that income. They invest in their own properties and build their own properties as well. And then on top of that, you, the members, can say, well, there's actually a really good market here in wherever, Florida, I don't know. And they will listen to you. Why will they listen to you? Because you're a member and a shareholder of their company. And then the benefit of funds and REITs, and I'm going to say this probably multiple times, the benefit of funds and REITs is not only their diversification, but the fact that it is a company that is not public 9 times out of 10. You can invest in public REITs, but the returns are a little bit smaller. The private REITs are where the real money is because they really only diversify in 4 different areas, and then they use the rest of their income to go put it in other funds and REITs, usually at the suggestion of their members.
Absolutely. And you know, in terms of who would stand to benefit the most from this, would you say that it's mostly someone who already has a bit of money that they're looking to kind of hedge risk, or is it more of, you know, even someone who's a first time investor, maybe until they can build up more capital, kind of park this there to preserve their money and then, do other deals to let it grow? Who can really stand to benefit from using these sorts of funds?
I'd say both are going to be the ones who benefit the most, and that is the cherry on top of the fund cake, if you will, right? Let's say you've got $500,000 and your fund, just like mine, offers a 15% quarterly distribution. You mean to tell me you're making 15% up of $500,000 for just parking your money in one area? Same thing goes for somebody with $500, right? The benefit of most funds is that there are very little minimums. REITs are going to have minimums and they're going to have timeframes in which you need to keep your money in. Same thing with funds. The benefit of my fund and the benefit of our product is there is no minimum investment yet, obviously the more the merrier. You're going to want to really grow your capital. You're going to need to put a lot of it in one place to do so. Not necessarily a lot of it, but I'd say if you got 5 grand, if you got $500, you're going to make the same 15% return. So do the math and identify how much of this can I afford to put in here. It's not a matter of you do the $500 once, it's a repetitive thing because every 6 months you can pull your cash out. So that's a big benefit. And we all know that real estate appreciates very well. Over COVID and pretty much ever since 2008, all the big REITs and funds have really consolidated their holdings in big cities and started spreading out a little bit more because I think they understood what was going to happen. I think they were really preparing for another recession that could wipe out a lot of housing market appreciation gains. So while they have all their big fancy multifamily properties, those are the things just keeping the lights on. Everything else that is paying the investors and paying the real bills is going to be outside in those much smaller secondary and tertiary markets because those are the markets that we don't have to worry about appreciation. So think about that for a second, right? If I'm in a market where I don't have to worry about my appreciation going from 500,000 to 300,000, it's a lot safer for you to assume that $500 you put into this fund every single month, hypothetically speaking, right, is going to keep growing and growing and growing based on the value of the fund. Now, with that, you won't really see the value of the property expressed in your return. You are primarily just getting the value of the cash flow. And if that's what you're after and that's what you're trying to build yourself on, cash flow is going to be the thing for a lot of people during this recession time frame. Is going to be super important because again, a bank's going to need to look at you and say, "What's your cash flow situation?" And for many of you who are new investors, a fund and a REIT are the best places to start because they have, not weekly, but they have quarterly calls. So you can learn more. You can reach out to the managers and learn even more. On top of that, they will give you tours of the properties and walk you through the deals case by case. And I think that is such a huge education for $500 and a 15%, even to tell me you're getting paid to learn. Impossible, right? Where is that going to be held? But there are so many different opportunities out there for investors of any size and area to be able to benefit from these REITs and funds due to the fact that that's their entire point. Raise as much money as possible, rely on as little debt as possible, and take all the cash flow we can, return it to the investors. On that note, this is the thing I didn't tell you about the REITs. Now you get to get the cherry on top. REITs have to give away legally by law 90% of their income to their investors every single year. So think about that, 90%. You
Wow.
tell me that's not worth it. What real estate person is going to be? I'll give you 90% of my income if you invest in this townhome with me. There's not enough to go around. Bump all that. Focus on areas where you can diversify and grow your funds in a smart and protected way.
Absolutely. And that's a great distinction to make, and you really highlighted that well, kind of talking about, hey, whether you have a lot of cash in the bank or whether you're a first time investor, when that recession comes, maybe, a lot of people could say it's coming or we're already in it. Regardless, during a recession, you're looked at for that cash flow. So it's pretty neat how you're able to offer this sort of service.
Exactly. I'm not the first person to come up with this. So if you do have questions, reach out to me, but I'm not going to be the guy who can answer every single question about it. But the benefit is you could type in REIT, and that's RIET, and you can find hundreds of them out there that are doing some crazy, amazing things. Some of them are investing in farms, others are investing in medical technology companies that have their land. Some are just investing in old folks' homes, right? And these are areas that, again, as long as you can diversify however you want, right? So you find the funds and the minimums that you find the funds and the REITs that meet your minimum investment guidelines. And if you can sprinkle it around in multiple different areas, you're going to be protected. You're going to do a-okay. And when you do buy your first property, the anxiety of if this person doesn't pay the rent, if I don't sell this thing, you've got cash flow coming in. Don't worry about it. And that's a much better feeling than, oh man, I don't have any cash flow coming in. Trust me.
Yeah, completely. That's so interesting. And one thing I'm interested in as well is kind of talking a bit about maybe some people in our audience know what multifamily syndications are. Would you say that this concept is similar to syndications, or if not, how is it different?
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference between a syndication and the fund slash REIT model is that a syndication, right, you're putting your money into a project that is then hopefully going to be rehabbed or built. So there's downtime. And that downtime could be 6 months, 8 months, a year. The benefit of a REIT is there's no downtime. Your return starts as soon as it hits that bank account, and that next quarter, 15%, because there's no lag, right? There is no having to wait till you hit X percentage to start receiving this percent of return. That's not the way that any of that works. And I think again, if you are looking to get started and looking to make money without having it in a deal for so long, the benefit of the REIT and the funds itself is you can withdraw. You can withdraw not necessarily any time. A lot of them have minimum time frames to stay inside the deal, usually around 6 months, right? But you can withdraw your funds. And the big benefit of withdrawing your funds is you can take your return, stack that for 3, 4 years, take your initial principal out, and you're off to the races. You are off to the races. And that's huge because syndicators right now aren't really promising anything other than a speculative return. And it's a speculative in a loose sense, primarily meaning they think they can get XYZ, but I would much rather invest in the thing that's already cash flowing as a new investor than invest in the speculation. And if that new investor offloads his property to REITs, I know, I'm sorry, if that syndicator offloads his property off to REITs, that's somebody that I can trust to actually operate because a REIT's only going to buy it if it knows it's cash flowing well, if it knows it can add that value. And then, right, all of those other properties that look just like that are all lined up producing cash flow. So again, it comes down to would you rather invest in 160 units or would you rather invest in 1,000 units? What is that going to look like for yourself, right? So definitely a question to ask, but I would say that's how you utilize funds and REITs as a stepping stone. Invest there, build your money, grow your money, whatever your time frame is, you take your principal out, join the syndication, and then move on to the next piece of it, right? It's all about growth, it's all about strategy. And a lot of people, again, think real estate's only one way only. Nah, man, real estate is super diverse and fluid, and you can interchange and mix things however you need to because it's just an investment process. And I say again, having a strong base, a strong foundation, start that off with REITs and funds, then diversify yourself even further, right? Go into those syndications, find the people you like. And guess what? You're gonna find the people you like from your REITs and funds because they buy stuff from syndicators. And they're just gonna say, you know what? I know a syndicator you would probably be really interested in. He does deals in this place, in this place, this place. We buy 3 of them a year, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's gonna be something that's gonna be key because they haven't steered you wrong yet. They've made a 15% return for the past X amount of years. They've made an 8% return for the past 8 amount of years. Those are the guys I'm going to go spend my money with because I can trust them as the referral from the people who are already making me money. And that's huge. And then from there, your syndication money doing everything else for you and your foundation solid, now you can tackle individual properties. And I know it sounds like a long, arduous, drawn out process, but real estate is not a quick game, unfortunately. For those of you that think it is, you're in for a very rude awakening, but it's a very long, arduous process. And with that, you want to make sure that you're set because if you only flip homes and you can no longer flip homes, don't you wish you just had a little bit more cash flow in your pocket to make sure that you can go flip homes when it's time to go flip homes? Or even more importantly, the benefit for my investors, right? If after 3 years they've been investing with us and they go find something that they like, and all they've done is just collect their profit, right, every single quarter, or at least contributed their profit back to their principal amount, now they can just take that amount out and go buy whatever they want. And for those of you who aren't aware, right, this is about to be the time where people are about to start selling deals off left and right. Those people who went in there and didn't get appraisals because they wanted to buy the property fast, they're going to be coming to you real soon. And real soon is like a year to 2 years. Those people that overpaid by $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, they're going to be coming to you real soon. And with that, you want to be in a position to benefit, don't you think? So establish your foundation, build those connections so you can have those syndicators that you trust in your network, and then go out there and tackle what you really want.
Absolutely. And it's interesting as well. You're kind of talking about, positioning yourself, right? Regardless of where you are, maybe you're first starting out, maybe you have a bit of cash that you want to invest in, but really just kind of being prepared for the storm. And what's so unique about, what you're offering is really how it can really play into regardless of what the economy is like.
That's it. And that's where you want to be. You want to be winning whenever whatever the economy is doing, however it's doing. But I think realistically, you want to be in a position where, man, like I may lose my job. You lose your job, but you still have cash flow. Don't get me wrong. Will it replace all your bills? No. But at least you'll know you'll be taken care of until you get to the next portion of it. For those of you who are married, it'll be a little bit easier. And the benefit of that too is anybody who has like an IRA or 401k, if you transfer those retirement accounts into self-directed IRAs and self-directed formats, you can place that money into those funds and into the REITs without the tax implication. All that money just goes right back into your IRA or right back into your 401k, however you want to do it. But they are tax-free ownership concepts, just like any other form of real estate. So again, your nest egg is building and being protected. And that's where you really want to be when you're going to retire, if you feel like you're in threat of losing your job, like most people are anyways, right? So you want to be in the sense of, can I afford to invest in this constantly? Yes. If you're putting money into your IRA and your 401k and it's in the stock market now and it's losing 20%, take it out. Just take it out. Like, why? Why are you keeping it there? I know the market's going to rebound, but again, you will have cash flow to go back into the market. Isn't it better to have cash flow that you can go back in, or do you just want to keep losing money and then working with the minimum that you have instead of the maximum that you can have? Those are all just the choices, I guess.
Absolutely. Great insight there as well. And, I'm curious, maybe to get started here, is there, a minimum buy-in, or is there, what would you say maybe for someone starting out or looking to, be part of this, how much would you need?
I wouldn't think about it that way. I would think about it in the sense of consistency. How consistently can I place 500, 1,000, $900, $1,500? How consistently can I section off a portion of my current rental income, my current paycheck, my current side business, my current OnlyFans money? Because I know what some of you guys do out there. How can I section some of that money off and put that into a fund every single month? That's how you want to think about it. If you already have the windfall to go after, that's up to you. I'd say, again, most of the REITs are going to have minimum investments. Many of them will be about 25 to $50,000. So with that being the case, there are many different ways, but you don't need to be an individual to invest in either one. So you can kind of crowdsource, get all your friends together. Hey, we all got bonuses. Let's put it together and hit up this REIT or this fund and, secure ourselves, right? Those are different options that you have for yourself without the fear of, man, am I gonna lose all this? But I think realistically, for those of you who are truly interested in getting started in something like this, identify what can I contribute to this monthly, because that's the number that matters the most. Not how much can I do all at once. Don't do that, especially now, right? Cash flow is king, so you're gonna want to make sure you have something just in case, because you are going to be locked into these funds for 6 months to almost a year before you can pull your money out. So you really need to think about it as, okay, if I consistently add in X amount of dollars every month, let's say you put in $500 to start and you contribute at the beginning of the quarter, $500 every month. By the time you get to the first quarter, your 15% return is not just on that $500, but on that 2 grand you placed in there. Now 2 grand at 15% does well. You throw that same 15% on top of your 2 grand and you keep adding the $500 as well as you can. If you can. If you can't do it, don't do it. But if you can, that's how consistent you need to be with this. Because again, it's like a piggy bank that has a 15% interest rate. The investors who you are investing in their fund are utilizing your cash to avoid bringing on debt to go tackle new deals and LP positions and make more money. And if you do not know how to do those things, invest with somebody who does.
Absolutely. Well said. And that was a really neat distinction you made, right? As opposed to, I guess, kind of reframing it, as opposed to thinking, I need to, how much is it to buy in? It's more of how much can I contribute to really, get me to my long-term goal, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. If you know what your goal is, then that's up to you at that point, right? If you want to go big, you go big. But I think realistically, be consistent because anything can happen. And I'm all about anything could happen. Trust me, it happens, right? So you want to be in an area where you are reliant on yourself. And if you do feel good about the market, yeah, go ahead, make it 1,000. Like these REITs and funds, they're not going to care how much you put in there monthly, as long as you're contributing to it monthly, right? If you can do that, great. If you can't do that, find a place that'll do that for you. Speaking of which, my fund allows you to do that. And because we allow you to do that, it allows you to be in control of what your investment amounts are. So if you're skeptical at first, start off with a small amount. Let us prove you wrong. And then we'll move on and keep growing your cash to make sure that we can keep doing what we do. Because what we do is fantastic. We house military members, a group of people who don't get laid off during a recession, right? In fact, we just added 3 NATO countries to NATO. So most NATO countries, they train in America, just in case you didn't know. With that being the case, a little bit of security. And with that security, we will grow, we will build, we will absolutely continue to push forward. And those are very key things for most people who are looking to get into funds, because I'm telling you, if you aren't doing your research, if you aren't looking at what's happening in the market, the people who are investing your money, they are.
Absolutely. Well said, Solomon. Is there anything you haven't said for us that you really just like to hit home, maybe about your fund, how to get started, just anything about what y'all are doing?
Not necessarily. I mean, if you guys want to learn more about it, you can follow me on LinkedIn. That's Solomon Floyd, SolomonFloyd. Or if you really want to talk to me about it, you can always book some time at booksolomonfloyd.com. And I think realistically, I'm looking forward to a fantastic year just at the rate that we are growing right now. We're having a lot of people contribute. We're having a lot of people get into it because there's so much going on that people want to be prepared for, and especially on that back end, like I said earlier, you want to be prepared for when you see that big shiny object, right? You see that new car they're coming out with. Ooh, I want that. I don't want it now. I want it later. Or, right, I want my first 3 properties. I've already got X amount of dollars saved. You can go after those first 3 properties, or at least one at a time, or you can invest it, go after one property and invest the other to make sure that you have some other properties coming into play. But I'm all about like the REIT concept. Just focus on an area where somebody's already making really good money. REITs are really good returns during recessions and downtimes. Same thing with funds. So it'll be a whole different concept for a lot of people to learn. I'm always willing to educate and teach you guys about it.
Absolutely, Solomon. It's been great, having you come back onto the show for the second time and really kind of getting, us diving in deeper here on what you guys are doing. You explaining the fund, maybe how it's a bit different from syndications, diversifying your portfolio, and really just having, your service and your product and what y'all are doing and making it part of your long-term plan. So I think that's so neat.
I really appreciate it. And again, thanks for having me on here. As always, great time, great conversation. I'm looking forward to the next one. We get to talk about, how successful the fund's been over the past year and kind of see what the returns look like. If anything, I'll have a little Excel format sheet that's a live format sheet that you can see where all of our returns have looked like. And people can kind of be like, oh man, that is really good. But for the most part, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next time.
Beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely, Solomon. Always a pleasure. And, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Talk to you later.